We've all been conditioned that when we do something wrong, you're supposed to be punished. And when kids misbehave, we want a solution on how we can change the behavior so that they don't do it again. So what is the type of punishment that works best? In this video, I'm going to review a couple different types of punishment. And I'm going to go over whether they are effective or not. But by the end of this video, you should know what type of punishment will work best for you and your family. Hey guys, I'm Jason Kreidman and welcome to another episode of Dad University. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and click on that notification bell so you know when our videos are uploaded. Also, it really helps us spread our message when you share these videos. So maybe you know a couple people that might enjoy this. Please share it with them. Behaviorist B.F. Skinner identified that there was two different types of punishment. The first was positive punishment, and the second was negative punishment. Now, positive punishment was also known as punishment by application, but it basically means that you are adding something to the situation as that behavior occurs. For example, your child takes the toy from their sibling, and so as a result of that, you yell at them, you scold them. In this situation, the positive punishment is you yelling at them. So it doesn't mean that it's something good. It's actually that you're adding something unpleasant to the situation to try to change their behavior. That's what the positive part of it is. You're yelling, add something to the situation. By contrast, negative punishment, which is also known as punishment by removal, is taking away something when the behavior occurs. So in that example where your child has the toy, they're taking it from their sibling, negative punishment would be you going in and taking that toy away. You're taking something good away from the situation. Whereas that positive was actually adding something. It's you yelling, it's you getting them in trouble, it's you sending them to their room. You're adding something to the situation, whereas then negative is taking something away. Within each of these, both the positive and negative punishment, Skinner was just putting these into very broad categories. Within each of these two categories, there's a lot of different ways that parents handle punishment. So I want to go over a couple common ways that parents punish their kids. And then let's take a look at whether they work or not. Number one, physical punishment. So this is getting spanked, slapped, smacked, whatever physical is done to the child. Let me be pretty clear with this one. There is never a situation that warrants hitting a child. Never. Now, I love the comments. I welcome you to comment and tell me how you turned out okay and you were spanked. I got news for you. It wasn't the spanking that made you turn out okay if you did turn out okay. It was the thousands of hours of parenting. It was the love. It was the support. It was the coaching. It was the teaching. It was all of those other things that helped you turn out okay. It wasn't the spanking. There have been countless studies and research done on using physical punishment as a parenting discipline. And the overwhelming result is that it provides no useful role in the development of children. In fact, it actually has the potential of having a negative impact. So again, zero useful role with the potential of having negative impact. Yes, there are those that continue to spank their kids. Whether they don't understand that there are alternatives to that, or they just don't want to believe the science, that's up to them. There's probably not much we can do. However, if you have a baby or a young child, I'm letting you know that there are alternatives to physical punishment. So that's what we're here to learn. Another type of punishment that is common, number two, emotional punishment. While this can be intentional, oftentimes it is not, and a parent doesn't even realize the damage that's being done. Yelling actually falls under emotional punishment, but it's more about what is being said than the actual yelling itself. If you ever tell a child that they're stupid and worthless or anything along those lines, that is emotional punishment. And the thing here is that emotional punishment can be more damaging than the physical punishment. Eventually, a lot of people get over the physical punishment part, where they say, hey, I turned out okay. But a lot of times, that emotional punishment lasts forever. A third type of commonly used punishment is timeouts. When my children were first born, timeouts were really popular. They actually got really popular by a television show called Super Nanny, and she would effectively use this technique. And basically, when a child misbehaves, you would put them in a designated area for a specified amount of time. So they'd sit in the corner, or they'd sit on a step, or they'd sit in what was called the naughty chair. There was a lot of different names for it. But basically, that idea is to put them there so that they are by themselves, away from everybody. While this technique can be effective if done properly, that's sort of the problem, is that most people don't do it correctly, and it's inconsistent, or they are inconsistent with it. And it really only works for children up to 5 or 6 years old, so what do you do after that? But this idea of timeout, it sounded great. A child is throwing a tantrum, and we can put them in timeout. It allowed parents to feel like they were in somewhat control of the situation. But realistically, it's not a great technique. And especially because it's not a long-term technique. It only works for those younger kids. And then a fourth common type of punishment, taking things away. So this is the sort of the negative punishment that we talked about earlier. It's removing something or taking away something from them that they really like. So maybe an example is your kid gets bad grades, so as a result, you take away their electronics. Or you have a teenager who snuck out at night, and so you took away their keys so that they won't have that car anymore. Now, I'm gonna probably make a couple parents upset here, because this is their go-to, but taking things away doesn't work either. I have to say it. And there's a ton of parents that use these techniques, whether it is taking away their phones and their electronics and all of these other things. Now, they believe that it works, but it doesn't teach the child anything. If anything, it makes that child just think that you're a jerk. It doesn't make them think about what they did or how they could have done something differently or actually learn from the situation. So again, taking stuff away doesn't work. But what does? I think the bigger question here that we have to ask is, does punishment actually change behavior? What are we trying to accomplish with punishment? We're trying to get someone to follow the rules, learn from their mistakes, or change their behavior in some way. We're trying to get them to follow those rules. So that's the question. Does punishment work? Does it get the person who is punished? Does it get them to think about what happened and why they did it? Does it get them to learn from their mistake? Well, research says no. Now, you may not believe in science, you may not believe in research. I personally do. And research says that punishment doesn't work. Let's take an extreme example. Prisons. According to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, 83% of released prisoners are arrested again within 9 years. So, putting people in prison, taking away their freedom, punishing them, doesn't work. That's an extreme example, but it's pretty clear if 83% are getting arrested again, then whatever's going on by taking away their freedom, it's not working. So if we bring that down to a lower level, punishment in itself doesn't work. There has to be more. What if I told you that there actually isn't a type of punishment that works? We're conditioned to think that if we do something wrong, we're supposed to be punished. But what if punishment doesn't work and we've been doing this wrong all along? So here's the thing, or here's an idea. What about reframing the idea of punishment into thinking that when something goes wrong, or a child misbehaves, or they do something wrong, that we reframe our thinking into how can I help this child do it correctly? How can I help them learn from this situation? Now, I understand not every single situation is a learning experience, but many are. So when a child, instead of getting punished, it's looked at in a different way. It's looked at, how can I help this child learn? I've talked a lot on this channel about thinking of yourself as a coach instead of a parent. and what that means. I've introduced this concept of being a coach. It means teaching your child the ways of the world, teaching them right from wrong, teaching them to be respectful and courteous and helping others. That's what being a coach and a parent is about. I know a lot of parents will probably have difficulty with this idea of no punishment. But on the flip side, there's no rewards either. I mean, you're not doing, incentive charts and stars and things like that and giving them things and rewarding them for behavior. That doesn't exist either. There are natural consequences. And so natural consequences occur as a result of our behavior and the decisions that we make. So as an example, your child gets a bad grade in their class. Well, they may fail, they may have to go to summer school, they may have to do something to make it up. But how is you punishing them going to help them learn and improve their grade, if that's the intention? It's not. Our job as parents, as soon as our children are born, are to coach them and to teach them the ways of the world. We teach them right from wrong. No, don't touch that, it's hot, you're gonna get hurt. Or this is the right thing to do and this is the wrong thing to do. That's our job. We want them to make their own decisions. That's what we're teaching them for. And we have to also let them know that their decisions have consequences. And as they grow, those consequences get bigger and bigger as their decisions get bigger. You know, if you have an older child, it might be a little bit more difficult, but you can still have that kind of relationship. So punishing your child does not teach them. And that's our ultimate goal, is to teach them so that they can be on their own and they can thrive and survive in this world. But punishment, that's not going to help them learn. We teach them by communicating with them. You know, your toddler is throwing food. So punishing them is not going to work. You have to talk with them and tell them, no, we don't throw our food, we eat our food. And guess what? Your toddler is going to do it again. And you go back and you do it again and you say, no, you don't throw your food, you eat your food. And it'll happen probably again. But that repetition and that talking and the communicating, that is what teaches them. So a lot of parents will use punishment because they don't know that there's an alternative, or the alternative takes too much time, it takes too much effort. But that's our job as a parent, is to teach them. You communicate with them thousands and thousands of times, from the time that they're a baby until they are grown. And you talk to them about how could they have done this situation different. You give them positive reinforcement, a lot of the things that we talk about on this channel. But punishment doesn't solve it. So in my house, when something happens, we don't like the behavior, they don't get punished. We talk about what could they have done differently? Or if they're faced in this situation next time, what's going to happen? Now listen, it's not perfect. You know, we still yell, we still don't know how to solve a situation, and so we yell, get up to your room. But there's always communication involved. So instead of that punishment, it's, hey, what could you have done differently? You know, or hey, what happened here? Or how should we solve this? And so this communication, when you start very, very early, it works. You know, the problem often occurs is that people don't do it, and then when the child is a teen or they're a little bit older, they try to implement things and they wonder why it doesn't work. So if you have a young child, this is how you want to start your relationship, is you want to be able to communicate about things and ask them those questions. You know, you don't want your child to become a better liar and more sneaky and those kinds of things as a result of them getting in trouble. Because if they think they're going to get in trouble, they'll just find ways around it. They'll become better liars, better sneakers, better hiders of stuff. And instead, you'd rather them be honest, be open. Let's communicate about it and let's solve the problem so that this doesn't happen again. As I said, your child is going to face situations in which their actions and their decisions and what they decide to do has an impact on their life. And you want them to be prepared for that. And punishment is not the way. I would love to hear from you. Are you struggling with a situation and you feel like punishment is the only way to deal with the child? Leave your questions and your feedback in the comments section below. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. If you found this video helpful, you don't want to miss what we have for you in our other videos. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and click on that notification bell. Also, if you know anybody that might enjoy this video, please share it with them. We'll see you next time.